You walk past a mirror in a dim hallway. For half a second, you don't recognize the shape moving beside you. Your heart skips. Then your brain catches up. It's just you. But that half second of fear is not a glitch. It's a fossil. A leftover signal from a time when seeing your own reflection could mean something was very wrong. Most people assume mirrors are simple. You look, you see yourself, end of story. But the real answer is far stranger. For most of human history, reflections were rare, unstable, and often terrifying. And the part of your brain that processes them has never fully updated. Think about it. Before glass mirrors existed, the only reflections your ancestors ever saw were in water. Still water. Dark water. The kind found in ponds, puddles, and the edges of rivers at dusk. And those moments came with real danger. A still pond was often where predators drank. It was where snakes rested in the shallows. It was where, if you leaned in too far, you might fall. So when early humans caught a flickering shape staring back at them from the water's surface, their brains didn't calmly process, "That's me." Their brains processed, "Something is there." This is where the story gets interesting. Researchers studying self-recognition, including work built on the mirror test developed by psychologist Gordon Gallup in the 1970s, found that very few animals can look at a reflection and understand it represents themselves. Chimpanzees can, elephants can, some dolphins and magpies can. Most animals cannot. They react to a mirror as if it's another creature. They might attack it. They might try to play with it. They might ignore it entirely. Humans can pass the mirror test too. But here's the twist. Passing the test as an adult doesn't mean the ancient alarm system disappears. It just gets overridden, quickly, almost instantly. But not completely. Your brain still runs the old subroutine first. Neuroscientists have mapped this process using something called the self-face response. Studies using EEG and fMRI scans, including research summarized by cognitive neuroscientist Julian Keenan, show that when you see your own face unexpectedly, areas of your brain associated with threat detection and social monitoring activate before the areas responsible for self-identification. In plain terms, your brain checks, "Is this a threat?" before it checks, "Is this me?" This happens in milliseconds. You never consciously feel the gap. But it's there. And under the right conditions, that gap widens. This is why dimly lit mirrors feel unsettling. This is why a reflection glimpsed from the corner of your eye can make you flinch. This is why staring at your own face in a mirror for too long, in low light, can start to feel deeply wrong. There's actually a name for this. It's called the Caputo effect, named after psychologist Giovanni Caputo, who ran experiments asking people to stare at their own reflection in dim lighting for 10 minutes. Many participants reported their face appeared to distort. Some saw it shift into the face of a stranger. Some saw it transform into an animal. Some reported seeing the faces of dead relatives. Caputo wasn't studying ghosts, he was studying perception. When your brain receives a steady, unchanging visual input, especially in low light, it starts to lose its grip on the details. It fills in gaps. And because faces are the most socially important shapes your brain processes, when the details start to slip, your brain doesn't see nothing. It sees a face, just not necessarily yours. Now, picture this happening to someone 40,000 years ago, crouched at the edge of a dark pool at dusk, catching a flickering, shifting version of their own face on the water's surface. No glass, no stable light, just movement, ripples, and shadow. It's not hard to understand why so many ancient cultures treated reflections with suspicion. In countless folk traditions, from parts of Europe to East Asia to indigenous communities across the Americas, mirrors and reflective water were linked to spirits, doubles, and the dead. Breaking a mirror was considered bad luck. Covering mirrors after a death was common practice. Some cultures believed a reflection captured a piece of your soul. These beliefs weren't random superstition, they were a cultural response to something biological. Humans noticed that reflections behave strangely under certain conditions, and they built stories to explain a feeling they couldn't quite name. Then came glass mirrors. Reliable. Bright. Cheap, eventually. And the strange, flickering reflections of murky water became a daily, stable, well-lit image. Your brain adapted, mostly. But the old wiring is still in there, and researchers have found ways to bring it back out. A study published in the journal Perception had participants stare at their reflection under low lighting for extended periods. The majority reported some kind of distortion. Faces appeared to age, features appeared to swap. Some participants described their reflection as appearing not human for a few seconds. This isn't a malfunction. It's your visual system doing exactly what it evolved to do. Pattern recognition under uncertainty. When the input is unclear, your brain doesn't shrug and give up. It guesses. And sometimes those guesses are unsettling, because the most important pattern your brain is built to detect above almost anything else is a face. Faces are different from every other object you see. Dedicated regions of your brain, particularly in an area researchers call the fusiform face area, are specialized just for processing them. This region is so sensitive that it can be tricked into seeing faces in clouds, in wood grain, in the front grille of a car. Scientists call this pareidolia. Your own reflection is the most detailed, most familiar, and most emotionally loaded face your brain will ever process. So when that face becomes unstable, even slightly, the effect is more intense than seeing a face in a cloud. Here's the part that brings it back to you right now, today. You've probably felt a small version of this. Looking in a mirror right after waking up in low morning light and feeling like the person staring back looks slightly off. Older. Tired in a way you didn't expect. For a fraction of a second, something feels unfamiliar about your own face. That feeling isn't really about how you look. It's about lighting conditions and a half-asleep brain triggering the same ancient pattern recognition system that once watched still water for danger. You are not afraid of mirrors. Not exactly. You're carrying a survival system built for a world where reflections were rare, dim, and often dangerous, and you're using it in a world full of bright, stable glass. Most of the time, the system updates instantly. You see yourself, recognize yourself, move on. But every so often, in the right light, at the right angle, for just a fraction of a second, something older than mirrors flickers behind your eyes. And for that fraction of a second, you're not looking at a reflection. You're looking at the edge of a dark pond, 40,000 years ago, waiting to see what looks back.